welcome back to the channel, guys, and today I'm going to run through the first round of my individual league at Monkhall. Now there's 6 rounds and I'm going to do one of these every round. Now hopefully I've been able to get on the bank, but due to the light nights coming in, it's a bit harder to get on the bank. The weather's been atrocious today, so we couldn't get back out to say a fishery or on the bank to film it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to incorporate it with talk about my match, things I learned, and I've got a few questions from a vlog thing that I want to go through, answer a few questions for you guys. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the start of the individual winter league that Paul Gregory runs at Monkhall. It's a great league, loads of bites to be had. It's a nice fishing, but it's just nice to get some bites in the winter. Now I've been at Monkhall on a pairs league and I feel like I'm learning a lot about Swallow Lake. I've been on it twice now, but I'm going to update that onto my members channel of what I've been learning on that one. But on this one, it's going to be split over most of the fishery. So what I mean by this is this week it was on hawk or buzzard. So you fish one this week and then one the next week, and then it'll probably change to say lark and swallow, for example. But this week it was my turn. I drawn on buzzard and peg 5. Now I've been on this lake before in the winter once before, and anyone that doesn't know buzzard, it's like 3 islands, and one in the middle and 2 either end, and then he's pegged it so it's either sides of the islands that you're fishing against. So I've drew peg 5 at the top end. Now because of the weather, it was due for high winds on the day, so one thing I wanted to do is try not to fish too far, but try and fish somewhere it's comfortable where I could get away with fishing. Now I set up a 6 metre line with maggots for hide and any F1s that come to feed. There's a lot of nice hide in there, about £1 each. Just about, yeah, it's like 12 ounce to £1 average, so they're good stamp fish. And I've also set up a 13 metre line. Say the wind was coming across me from right to left, so I could get away with fishing a 30 metre line into the wind. I could hold it early on. So I've chose to fish there, and I've chose to fish one straight in front of me as well. So I've got 3 maggot lines on the go. I did plumb up across, but the wind never even, I tried it once and it just blew me off my box. But I've also set up a little feeder and bomb system. So I've actually set up an ICS system, because this is one mistake I made. I didn't have any ICM stuff with me, so all the little mini feeders, all the stuff that I needed, I wasn't really prepared for that. I didn't take anything I thought I had with me, I didn't. So I've had to fish an ICS, little banjo feeder, just tried to minimise the feed I put in it. So I've just put some micros in that I have a punch red or a piece of corn on the hook. So my match went okay. I've started on the feeder. I've chucked it just off the island, like 3 little boys across, chucked it there, 2 pieces of punch bread on the banjo, just put a few pellets in, trapped my hook in, so nothing's going to come off the feeder, chucked it in. I've had 1 carp and an I've been nice per carp, £4, and an F1 on that early. Now I've been priming my maggot lines, feeding them every 30 minutes, 40 minutes, keeping going in, but I've gone on one of them. I've gone on my left hand maggot line. It's been lovely. Been able to catch nice hide. I think I had an F1 on the carp on it as well, so I was ticking over nicely. I was getting regular bites. The only thing is I couldn't really see this side of my peg at the minute because the sun was there, so that was the only place I had to drop. Dropped in there, I've caught a nice run, probably caught £25 there, £30 maybe, as well as I've caught probably £6 or £7 across on a feeder. Now the wind has got that horrific in the middle of the match towards the end. I think everyone had an issue. I've had my roller blow over, the lad next to me's had something fall in, the fella next to me, him's had his pole go. It's just been an absolute nightmare on there. It's gone like a side of a hill, so it takes the wind really bad. So at the end of the match, I've chopped ashore. I've had a few hide there, but a lot of the fish had a lot of maggots in the mouth, so I think obviously there's too much bait there for not enough fish. So I've had 3 or 4 hide there, no F1s and carp. I've had 1 or 2 more on a feeder. Now the interesting thing was, late in the day, the lad next to me's chucked the feeder tight to the island and caught a couple of carp. So I've literally wound my feeder in, chucked it as tight as I can to the island. It's gone round with a £4 carp. So it's worth being vigilant to what's going on, seeing and making a decision. If someone's caught in a shallow water, just have a quick chuck if you need a quick fish or something like that. So that's how my day went. I had a nice day. I had £49, won the lake. It was actually second in the match, but won the lake, got the section. So this week we're going on to Hawk Pool on Saturday, which is going to be an interesting one. There's like 2 little areas, but it's the same fishing again. There's going to be some feeder work, maybe a bit of waggler if the wind allows, because the island's a little bit further on that lake. Feeder, so I'll make sure I'm going to take me 1 milli feed pellets from Sonia Baits, along with 2 milli as well for little ICS system methods. tie some hooks up for, say, single maggot, stuff like that, single dead maggots, just stuff. I'd be a little bit more prepared, some maggot feeders if I need to. Just, I wasn't prepared enough and I feel like I got away with one there. So the next one, I'm going to go on the haul pull and hopefully take the right amount of stuff, and hopefully we can adapt to the peg we're on. But that was a nice little day. We've obviously said we've got second in the match, got the important section win. So it's been a nice start to the league. The weather's killed everyone off on the pool. It's not just me, everyone off. I think even on Hawk they got a bit battered as well. So that's one thing, you got to fish the conditions. Got the fish earlier I needed to, and then just plodded along really. I probably could have caught a few more, but I wasn't risking holding the wing. At the end, the float was riding out the water. So now one thing I learned is about, like I said about that short line, I fed a little bit too much. Now I wasn't being aggressive throwing it because I couldn't generally throw it because of the wind. But I do feel like I just fed a little bit too much, but I feel like I needed to. It's quite deep on buzzard. Now, one thing I wanted to do is not like feed like 8 to 10 maggots and know it's not get down to the bottom. It's okay when it's say 4 foot deep. You know it's going to get down to, but there's a lot of fish in these lakes and the depth. I just wanted to try and force some fish down, but I think I maybe fed a little bit too much on that short line. But at the end of the day, I've looked around the lake. This is really interesting, and people that fish really short have not really caught much, because I've been lucky and be able to get away fishing to my left hand side 30 metres. That's where I've caught all my yard. So maybe the yard wanted to sit further out, and me fishing that a little bit further, and when I could as well with the wind, maybe got me them extra fish. So I'd like to say I had a nice start to the league. Fished my rig for the maggot line was a 4x16 F1 maggot, SFL 18 straight off the rig stick, nice and easy. 011 18 and a bulk and 2 droppers. So it's 6 inches apart, so nice and simple. But one thing I want to say is I've changed from using the beads to the Dacrons on my short kits for the winter time. Now the reason why I've done this is because I don't need the bolt effect sort of that the bead gives me, the straight onto the elastic nice and direct, because I'm not catching any fish shallow unfortunately because of the weather. But also it just, in the winter your hands get so cold and freezing and seize up. At the end of the match, the last thing you want to do is try and getting the bead off and try and get it, and Dacron just makes it nice and easy. You just pop it off, simple. It just keeps it away from your pole as well as the bead does, but it's just nice and simple. And for the winter time, that's when I'm going to be using some Dacrons. But like I said, I got some questions here which I posted on YouTube, so if you see a post for the next questions, you want to get any questions in, get them on there and I'll get an answer for you. For the first one, we've got red or white maggots in the winter. Now, for me, I like to use red maggots in the winter time. Just a simple red maggots. The water goes ever so clear. Now, there's probably no disadvantage of using white maggots, but I just feel like red maggots just get them extra bites over the sort of the white maggot sort of situation. Now some venues might be different to yours, but I like to just use red throughout the winter months. Just keeps it nice and simple. Take a few pinkies as well if you need to for the hook bait. I haven't really been doing that this year, but speaking to Ben that was next to me yesterday at Monkhall, he caught a few fish in it, so maybe I was a bit naive not doing it. So maybe that's one thing to try this week. Take some with me, see if we can get some extra bites there. But yeah, I'd look to use red maggots in the winter. You can use whites if you think that's a confidence, but I've got confidence in reds, so that's what I'm going to use. Now this is a good question really. Who's your biggest influence in match fishing? Now, the early days of my fishing, say when I was a lot younger, when I'm reading a lot of magazines and a lot of videos, you've got to be, say, Steve Ringer. I was going to a lot of carp venues, he was like, he still is the carp commercial king really. There's a lot of articles on him, used to read a lot about him. But as things changed, there's probably 2 people in the Northwest that I really look up to and try and adapt my fishing to styles they fish. Is Andy Bennett and Jamie Hughes. They're brilliant anglers, don't even need any recognition. They just, not say recognition, but they don't need any introduction, can't even speak now, into the match scene. They're known everywhere, they're brilliant anglers and they're absolutely brilliant at catching fish. But the way they fish is just, they keep it so simple but so aggressive. Now I like feeding bait, I like being confident, I like sitting there knowing if I'm going to be fishing, I'm there to win. That's the style they've got in their head. There's okay winning your section, but if you can push your peg and get that match win off a peg which you didn't fancy. Now when I used to fish Western many years ago, probably going back 5 or 6 years ago when I lived there. Because you used to fish a lot of matches, you had the confidence of knowing how to win the match, and that's the thing that's important, getting on the right methods early, getting on them quickly and making the most of your fish in your peg. So say the early days of me fishing, say when I was like a teenager, it's probably Steve Ringer. He won everything anyway, but he's brilliant. But nowadays it's sort of Jamie and Andy. They're just fantastic anglers, and they're just brilliant people to be around and learn stuff off, which I'm lucky to have, really. So I'm quite lucky. Now the next one's the biggest F1 I actually caught. Now it's a dubious picture. Some say it's a carp, some say it's an F1, but the biggest F1 I've actually caught is the dubious one. Is £8 out of Jack's Pool at Western Pools. But I also caught a couple of £7 out of there. It's a nice big fish, size of them. This is the favourite time of year to catch them now, because clear water, you see them come up, see them pop up when you're playing them. It's just really exciting, and it's nice to get involved with some big bars of gold. And it's just fishing light lines, light elastics, making the most of that. So, one here from young Joe, and he said, how do you keep your hands warm in winter? I don't. You tell me. I don't really know how to do that. It's one of the things that I think you got to put up with in winter. You can try wearing gloves if you can get away with fishing with them, but I can't really get away with fishing with them in the winter time. Now, I don't know why. Just if you can keep them warm, I'd feel. Get laid up, neck warmer, woolly hat, nice warm coat. Make sure you put your trousers on before you get to your peg. Nice warm wellies. You can buy heated socks and stuff these days and get heated clothing. But I think with the hands, it's just one of them. If you're fishing with a feed, you can sit on them or put them in your pockets. But when you're pole fishing, it's just one of them. You just gotta take it, I think, unless you can use gloves. That's all. Now John said, leading up to a big match or festival, how do I go preparing? Now, I'm not one for doing loads of prep, but if you're going to say like a festival, say like the Lindome Festival, I'll make sure I've got enough banded hook lamps. I'll make sure I've got enough like edge floats, shallow floats, all my elastics fresh, all my rods are set up, just the things that you don't want letting you down, the simple stuff. Now, you can make a few rigs up night before, but you really don't need that much gear. So just make sure you prep the stuff you're going to need. Now, Jamie mentioned banded hook lamps. I'm always going to be using them. There's always caster shallow, hard pellet fishing, really aggressive, like size 14 hooks for down your edge style. That's what I'm going to be using mainly throughout the week. Bomb hook lamps. You're probably going to need 20-30 bomb hook lamps for a week's fishing, 5 days, and that's going to be plenty. You're probably going to come away with like 20 of them, 15 of them. You're not going to use that many. So just make sure you've got enough for the right stuff. That's what I'd always say. I'm not known for doing loads and loads of prep, but I always like to have as much as I can of the right stuff. And don't waste time prepping stuff that I might not need. Like say like size 20 hooks, you're never going to really use them in summer there, but you're going to be on 16s, nice and aggressive, nice, just nice fishing. But also, you can't faff around fishing little bits and bars, just tie a bit of this. If you got the time, then do it, but I don't really have the time to just waste time on stuff like that. So we've got one from Gary's. It's a really interesting question about when I've been fishing silverfish matches recently. Is now, would I still use worm on commercials in the winter? Now, I would for, say, silverfish. I'd put a little bit of worm in. Sometimes you can just bring them extra bigger size skimmers, perch, roach into your peg. And there's some reason they really enjoy eating it. Now, I'm going to talk about the few matches I've had now. I went to Ridding's Fishery. I don't know where sure it is, in the Midlands somewhere. And it was really interesting. I fed a little bit too much bait, but I'll speak about that in my vlog coming up this week. But I fed a little bit too much bait, and I just feel that I maybe should have put a bit of worm in and just try to draw a few bigger skimmers in. Now, when I went to Larford the week after, I did feed worm, and it was really good. Caught some nice big skimmers. I caught £61, which didn't even win a penny, but it was a brilliant day's fishing. Just fed worms, casters, micros, in the balls, kept feeding them regular, drawing them bigger skimmers into the peg. And I do think when you're on a few good stamp silverfish, they can be deadly then. Smaller bits of worm, chopped up nice and fine, either an inch piece on the hook or a single or double maggot can be killer, I think. So yeah, don't ignore worms if you're going for silverfish. They can be really good. Just make sure you chop them nice and fine. Don't introduce too much into your peg, but sometimes it can be a nice little burst just to plop some in. maybe draws a few bigger skimmers and then they thin out again, or a few bigger roach and they get a bit smaller. But yeah, if you're fishing for silvers, I wouldn't be too worried about feeding worms. It can be really good. I've got a silvers lead coming at Bradshaw's, and that is how you actually start. You can feed a little bit of worms to start with, draw any hide, skimmers into your peg, get some bites, and then if you need to top up, you can top up, or if you don't feel like it's not working, you just go a little bit past your feed and stuff like that. So yeah, don't ignore it, the old worms in the old winter. Now, this is a good one. Could you talk us through your hook length choices in relation to depths when pole fishing? So like, I like to keep it dead simple. If I'm fishing now, with say the winter time we're going to take for example, so it's relevant. So if I'm fishing now, say if I'm fishing anything over 4 foot in the deep water, so I mean the track, central bit, short pole, long pole, I'm going to look to use a 6-inch hook length. Now this just gives me a fall. It looks nice in proportion with my bulk and 2 droppers, just gives me that extra little bit of fall with the depth. It's going to be ideal. But if I'm fishing say on shelves, like to the far bank or down the edge on snake lakes and stuff like that, I'm going to look to use 4 inches, just because I want that shot nice and close to the hook. So if I see any bites, you can see them nice and quick. Straight away you're into the fish. You can see all your signs and indications. Now, I just feel if I had a 6-inch one, I might be a little bit too, my shot might be a little bit too far away on them shelves and edges. But when it's a little bit deeper down the middle, I don't mind a 6-incher. Now, when you're fishing for silvers, are just like a nice 6-inch hook length, nice and simple. With silvers, I think they feed a bit different than F1s and carp. They'll pick up your bait and move away, as where the carp and F1s are just, they can suck and spit it out, and you don't want to be missing that in them sharp indications. So nice, simple, 6-inch for your silverfish fishing, 6-inch for anything say 4 foot and over down the middle and deep water, open water for F1s and carp. And then if you're on shelves or in the edge, just get a 4-inch on. Be nice and simple. That's just a little rule book I like to keep. Now, got another question as well. Do you increase your lash length when fishing on the jet during the winter compared to summer? Now, this is really important. It's probably one which I see a lot around in winter. Is people still have this short lash dead close to the float. Now, if conditions allow, you really ideally want, say, like an 18-inch 2-foot lash away from your float, because the water's gone a lot clearer now. The fish, I reckon, can see your pole even more now because the water's so clear. And the last thing you want to do is spook any fish and keep them on edge. But as they come in to feed on your peg, you want them nice and relaxed, get them in confident feeding your peg so you make it easy to catch them. So don't be too scared to use a long lash. Get that back shot on. Remember, where your back shot goes is relevant to how you want it. There's no limit. I'm not going to say, oh, it's got to be 3-inch there. If you can get away with it 4 inches away, perfect. If you want it halfway down near the top, just wherever it is, just got that little bit of length for line. Make sure you can strike into them fish. It makes it ideal. So we'll do one more. Just try and find one now. I'm trying to find it now. So the last one, I said, what festivals and location would you recommend for someone that's relatively new to match fishing? Well, if you're relatively new to match fishing, probably the first off is just go to somewhere where you're comfortable. So what style of fishing you want to get better at, whether it's carp, silvers, F1s. Now, for me, probably some of the best festivals around the Windfest, the Lindome Festival. Western Pool has a lot of festivals for the summer. So the spring, summer, autumn, and there's just 2 days, so they're nice and easy. You're not going to have to book loads of days off work, say 5 days. They're just 2 days. You can get them done, nice quick hit. Everyone's nice and friendly there. You're going to enjoy it. The fishing's different. You have to catch some hide, F1s, carp fishing, go the clay pit, dead deep. So I'd recommend, say, looking at Western Pools for one. If you're just after a quick hit festival for 2 days. I think they got a 4-day there as well this year, but 2 days is ideal if that's what you're looking for. But they got a 4-dayer. Lindome, if you're looking for a 5-dayer, there's so much fishing to be caught there. I think I had over £100 every day at Lindome. Even on Loco, I had like 220, something like that. Nice big fishing. The best thing about Lindome is there's loads of variation. So one day you're going to be fishing casted shallow, the next day you're fishing pellet shallow, the next day you're fishing on the bomb under your pellet line, then you fish a bomb at 30 metres, then you fish short pole. There's just loads of ways you can catch. all the lakes are a little bit different, so it makes it really interesting, and that's what makes it enjoyable for me. But one, if you want to go on, that's a great weekend and a great crack, and you enjoy staying in a lodge with a hot tub, is Westwood on the Windfest. It's just a nice, relaxed atmosphere. Tony runs a great festival. It's a good laugh. The one we had in October is brilliant. So have a look and check him out on Facebook. Check out Weston and Lindo. So that's the questions for that. Like I say, if you want to get any questions in, just fire them over on your social media, or just wait for the post to come up on YouTube in the community bit for the next one, and we'll get them answered for you. So I hope you enjoy this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like what you see, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe, and turn on the notifications bell so you don't miss any future videos. If you're looking for something a bit more, visit mattydoesfishing.co.uk, and you can see live matches, in-depth methods, and pegs resisted, and much more on there.